grocery store. Again, you can probably imagine that this is a much better summer job. I can finally get tan. I'm not pale anymore, so that's pretty great. I also love to sing. I've been singing for a really long time, and I recently started playing guitar, although I can't do bar chords or pick for the life of me, but I can strum. So I strum and I sing, and that's really all I do. But that's all you guys got to know about me. What about you? Is anyone here from outside of Canada? Yeah, where are you from? New York. Okay, nice. I've always wanted to go to New York. Can I come with you? Okay, awesome. Anyone else here from outside of Canada? Everyone else Canadian? Who's from Ontario? Ontario, nice. Okay, just you guys. Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, nice. BC. BC, no. Newfoundland. PEI. New Brunswick. Manitoba. Manitoba. Oh wow, lots of you. Nova Scotia. Anyone from Nova Scotia? You're from Nova Scotia? Okay, awesome. Anyone else? Am I missing anyone? Where are you from? Nova Scotia. Okay, awesome. I feel like I'm missing a Quebec. Anyone from Quebec? No? I'm really bad at geography and I've taken it twice. So, but I think I got everyone. So who's been on the Harbour Hopper before? Okay, two of you. Then welcome back and welcome to the people that have not been on it. So before I get to more recent colonial history, I would like to acknowledge that we are on an unceded and unsurrendered Mi'kmaq territory. The Mi'kmaq people have been on this land since the last ice age, and it's important to understand the history that predates British colonization. So I'm going to talk a bit about this vessel itself. This is known as a Lark 5. That stands for lighter amphibious resupply cargo, and the 5 stands for the amount of tonnage that it can carry. This actually weighs 20 tons, and 900 of these were made for $900 million. So if you do some quick math, this is a $1 million vessel that we're on right now. Do you guys feel like royalty? I thought so, right? I feel like the queen every day on this thing. Before there were seats, there were actually 50 caliber machine guns on here, but I promised you those are all gone. The vessel also used to be black and beige, but it was painted green and blue to look more friendly, because they were originally used in the 1960s to transport cargo and troops to the islands of Vietnam. But now, of course, we're using them to around Halifax, and we have 6 of them here as the Harbour Hopper. On your right there, that's St. Paul's Anglican Church. So that's the first Anglican church in North America. There's a pew reserved there for the king and his representatives. And if you sit in the front row of that church, you'll actually get a $1,200 fine because it's reserved for royalty. You'll see that a lot of things are reserved for royalty here in Halifax. We love the royal family, although they never really visit us, so kind of rude. Also on your left there, that's the convention center. It cost about $500 million to build, but I really don't have much to say about it, other than it's a convention center and it looks cool. Although some sporting events happen there where everyone gets together and watches a game. But other than that, it just kind of sits there and looks pretty. And does anyone know the TV show The Trailer Park Boys? Some of you? Alright, so the actor that plays Bubbles, Mike Smith, on your right there, that used to be Bubbles' mansion, which was owned by Mike Smith. It's now Buck Ugly's, but it was Bubbles' mansion at one point. And on your right here, this is the Halifax Ale House. So this used to be a Salvation Army temple, but it's now a temple for cheap beer and wings, depending on your definition of cheap beer. It's also the only bar in Halifax with stained glass windows. And we're going to be turning left onto Brunswick Street here in just a second. So Brunswick Street used to be known as Barrack Street for the amount of barracks that were on this street, but it was also known as Knock 'em Down Street for the amount of soldiers that would get drunk in the bars and then get into fights and knock each other down. Although that doesn't happen anymore, just a gear switch there. And on your left here, this beautiful building, that's the Halifax Academy building, or it used to be. Opened in 1878 as a high school, the first high school in Halifax, and then it was later rented to Dalhousie University and is now NASCAD, which is Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. But now we're turning right onto Citadel Hill. So Citadel Hill is the second most visited historic site in Canada, second to Parliament Hill, Ontario. I'm just kidding, it's actually the 6th, but it sounds a lot better if I say it's the 2nd. We just passed the welcome sign in 3 of our languages, English, French, and Mi'kmaq, welcoming us to Citadel Hill. On a nice day like today, a lot of people love to sit on Citadel. If you sit up there, you get beautiful views of downtown Halifax. It's a great place to tan, to have a picnic, to read a book, whatever you want to do. And sometimes in the winter, people like to go sledding down it, although I don't really recommend doing that, because the road is right there. But if that's what you want to do, then go for it. And on your right here, this is the Old Town Clock. It's kind of like our Eiffel Tower here in Halifax. It's a big deal. It was given to us by Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. He originally made the clock to keep his soldiers punctual, although each side of the clock is actually hand-wound and 5 minutes apart, so it probably didn't keep them punctual at all. But it's the thought that counts. It's also notoriously incorrect since it's been keeping time since 1803. But that's not really our problem, that's part Canada's. And Citadel Hill is a restored mid-Victorian period that features the 78th Highland Regiment with a Living History program. The Living History program features the Royal Artillery Park, civilians, tradespersons, and soldiers' wives. If you come visit, you can see the musket gallery, the powder magazine, the garrison cells, the schoolrooms. There's also a gift shop, a cafe, a library, and parking. And on top of that, there's reenactments of pipers, drummers, and drills. They dress up, it's super cool, so I recommend to check it out. Also, you guys have probably noticed that there's a lot of turns here. That's because Citadel is a bastion formation. So this basically means that it's shaped like an 8-pointed star, and this causes it to be very steep, and for this reason, it has actually never been attacked before. On your right there, that's Citadel Hill, that's Citadel High School, built in 2007, and is also where they filmed the Netflix TV show Mr. D. Does anyone know Mr. D? Some of you? So I was lucky enough to be a background actor in it. I know, guys, you get my autograph later. Season 8, episode 2. Although that's not on Netflix, only up to season 6, so I'm patiently waiting for that. Also, some episodes of this hour is 22 minutes are filmed there as well. If you're not from Canada, you definitely won't know them. I don't even think Mr. D is on American Netflix, so... but coming up on your right in just a second, you're going to see a flat piece of ground, and that's Garrison Grounds. They set up for a concert right now because the Shindig Festival is going on. The Chainsmokers were just here, and NLE Chopper was last night. Oh, I actually lied. They're getting rid of it now. But this is an outdoor event space. We've had a lot of events here, like the Filipino Festival, the Kite Flying Festival, the Pride Festival, the Comedy Festival. And speaking of Mr. D, Jerry D, the guy that plays Mr. D, opened for it. Theo Vaughn was there, and also a whole bunch of other comedians. We've also had a lot of concerts here as well, like Kanye West, Paul McCartney, the Rolling Stones, Kiss, the Backstreet Boys, the Jonas Brothers, Metallica, The Offspring. I could keep going. And coming up on your left there, I promise you those are not sailboats. There's no water here on Citadel Hill. Those are actually signal masts. So they were originally used to communicate to people in the harbor using flags, balls, and at night they would use lanterns. It was kind of like a cell phone back then. And you guys might have noticed this big ditch that surrounds Citadel Hill. So that's known as the dry ditch, also known as the pit of death. Because when enemies would come running up the hill, the top of the grass on Citadel, that's extra long and on purpose. It would act as an illusion to make it seem like the hill kept on going. Little did they know they would actually fall into the ditch and get shot at, but that doesn't happen anymore. Good, that'd be pretty scary. But now we're leaving Citadel and we'll be turning right onto Sackville Street. Alright, on your left here, this is the Royal Artillery Park, which I mentioned earlier. And this big building here that we're going to see that says 5480 on it, that's the last original barracks building in Halifax. But the Royal Artillery Park has the oldest military mess and the oldest military library in North America. It opened in 1816, and the oldest book in the library is from 1675, called How to Build a Military Fortification. 3 military fortifications were built after that, and they all failed. So I probably wouldn't read read that book. I mean, you could if you want to, but I wouldn't, you know. And there's also something known as the noon cannon on Citadel Hill. I didn't mention it because you can't see it, but it's fired every day at noon except for Christmas Day, and it was originally used to set soldiers' pocket watches. If it's your birthday or wedding, sometimes they'll actually let you fire the noon cannon. Is it anyone's birthday today? Coming up? Coming up? What day? 18. Mine's the 23rd, so close, close. What's your name? What is it? Travis. So we're going to be singing you happy birthday on the water. Anyone else's birthday coming up a few days ago? No? Okay, that's okay. Then we just turn left onto South Park Street, home to the Public Gardens. On your right here. You guys up there on the right, we get super close to trees. Sometimes they try to smack you in the face, and I don't want that to happen. There they are. So the Public Gardens is a traditional Victorian-style garden. In order to be a traditional Victorian-style garden, there has to be at least 3 types of trees. We actually have 140 types, which is crazy. There also needs to be a water feature, and we have a few, including a duck pond and 3 fountains. And it also needs to be independent in itself. So as you can see, big trees are surrounding the gardens, acting like a natural fence to keep it private. Also on your right there, you'll see the Royal Gate. It had the 2 plaques on it, and those plaques mean the wealth of the sea. The last time the gate was opened was when Queen Elizabeth was here. But we just turned left on the Spring Garden Road. So this has been the busiest street in Halifax since 1821. And until the 1970s, this street was lined with Victorian-style buildings. There are only 2 original Victorian-style buildings left here in Halifax. One will be passing very soon, but the other we won't because it's farther down that way, is Sacred Heart Private School. You guys might also notice that there's no power lines up above on these streets. That's because they're all underground up to a certain point. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they got lazy or something. But you'll see when they start again. But they did that a few years ago. And on your left there, that's Jennifer's of Nova Scotia, a Nova Scotian souvenir shop. 100% of their stuff is handcrafted from the Maritimes. So especially if you guys are visiting, I would check it out. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Royal Wave. But they just painted it blue, and I think it's a power move because it used to be the color above it there. But coming up on your left, beside my favorite fast food restaurant, Tim Hortons, is the Victorian-style building. This bus is kind of covering it. But if you guys couldn't tell, really just blends in with the rest of Spring Garden, doesn't it? But the last time that was used was as a flower shop called My Mother's Bloomers, which I just found out is owned by my second cousin twice removed. My mom just told me that. This is my mom, guys. But it is still open. It's just on a different street now. But the building is for lease for $8 million if anyone wants it. I can't afford it, but if you can, good for you. On your right there, that's the Public Central Library. So they built this library to look like a stack of fallen books. Opened in 2014, cost them $57 million to build. It's known for how eco-friendly it is because they use rainwater for their plumbing system. There's also gardens on the roof as well. It features a $62,000 grand piano, 2 music studios, gaming rooms, boardrooms, 2 cafes, and it's completely wheelchair accessible. And on your left there, that's the older library, the Halifax Memorial Library. Although they actually can't touch that library because while they were building it, they were going through the effects of 2 world wars. So there's 4,500 bodies buried underneath it. At the time, it was legal to build on a burying ground, and now it is not. So they literally can't do anything with it. That's normal. You know, that's just going to keep happening. So this vessel, you know, it shows its age a little bit. It's safe though, I promise, but only be concerned if it's not making any noise at all. On your left there, that's St. Mary's Basilica. If you look up, it's the tallest freestanding granite spire in North America. It's 189 feet tall. And on your right there, that's the old burying grounds, the first burying grounds in Halifax. The first body that was buried there was the day after Edward Cornwallis settled here in Halifax, so June 22nd, 1749. There are 12,000 bodies buried there, but only 1,200 headstones. So I guess people are just dying to get in, right? You know, the dad jokes are still going to come. I have a whole bunch for that. You know, people call it the dead part of town. You know, keep going. So Major General Robert Ross was buried there. He fought in the Battle of Baltimore in 1812 and died in 1814. He was famous for trying to burn down the White House. And his dying wish was to be buried in British soil. But at the time, the closest place with British soil was Halifax, and the trip was going to take several weeks, so his friends had to figure out a way to preserve the body. Can anyone guess how they preserved the body? Ice? That's a good guess. It's not ice. You know, I'll tell you. So they put it in a barrel of rum. And then when they got here, they decided to drink that barrel of rum to celebrate him. And they said it was the best full-bodied rum they've ever had. Really funny of them, right? I bet that hangover was deadly. You know, see, I was so ready for that. But we are on Barrington Street here. This is one of the 4 streets that were first built in Halifax. And on your left there, that's the Marble Building, which was founded by George Wright, who was a politician that died in the Titanic. And coming up, we're getting the other side of St. Paul's Anglican Church on your left, but on the opposite side of where we are right now, there's something known as the explosion window. It's the upper window third from the left, and it's known as the explosion window because when the Halifax explosion was going on, a neighboring window piece flew into the window. People also say that they can see the priest's silhouette. They've changed the window 3 times, and his silhouette still appears. So it's very haunted. On your left here, this is the Grand Parade Square. So this used to be a military muster point. A military muster point is where soldiers would go in state of emergency, but now we use it for events like a Christmas tree lighting ceremony. And we just turned right onto George Street here. Serious question, guys. Who likes construction? You do. I had a feeling. What's your name? Richard? Richard, well, it's a lucky day for you, Richard. So we're actually going to be seeing a lot of construction from now all the way up to the water. So are you a construction worker? You were? Well, thanks for all that you did. You know? So Halifax is actually one of the fastest growing cities in North America. So there's constant construction here. And we're going to be seeing that from now all the way up to the water, which is great. Love it. Thank you for everything, you know, thanks. It's really impressive. On your right here, don't worry, Richard, this building's also under construction, but it is open. This is the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. Does anyone here know of Maud Lewis? Okay, maybe, I don't know. That's okay. So she was a Nova Scotian artist known for having arthritis, and her work didn't really get big until after she passed away. Sometimes she would paint with her mouth, her elbows, or her toes if her arthritis got to be too much. If you look on the windows here, you'll see some paintings of flowers, and it gives you an idea of what her art style was like. It was very bright and colorful, and her house is actually in this art gallery, painted in her own art style. It's a very small house. It fits on 1 floor of that building, if you guys want to go check it out. And if you're curious about her, oh, good for him. I could not be sprinting up that hill. But if you're curious about her, there's a movie about her on Canadian Netflix called Maudie. It was filmed in Newfoundland, even though she was born and raised in Digby, Nova Scotia, so I don't know how I feel about that. But if you guys are interested, definitely check it out. I need to watch it myself. But we're going to be turning left onto Upper Water Street here in just a second, and you'll see this blue clock on your right. So that's the HMC Dockyard clock. That's one of the last pieces from the original naval dockyard. That clock has been moved 3 times, and it's also one of the last turret clocks in Canada. And once we get through these lights here, on your right will be historic properties. The oldest waterfront warehouse in North America. It's also home to the first bank in North America as well, Collins Bank, named after Enos Collins, who was the richest guy in Halifax before he died. Here comes the bank door. It's this little white one that says 1883 on it. Oh, we're actually stopping right beside it. It also has bank carved up in the cement as well. But these buildings are also home to Privateer's Wharf. A privateer is a legal pirate, and that's where they would store their loot to later auction it off. But now, of course, these buildings have restaurants and shops in them, because Halifax loves to take old buildings and put restaurants and shops in them. I think it's cute, you know, some people don't. It's however you feel. Also, Richard, are you seeing this construction? Are you seeing this? It's coming up. So they were actually going to build a highway going into downtown here, but everyone in Halifax was like, no, don't do that, that's so dangerous. So they decided to build against it, and now they're building condos and just spaces for anything. Restaurants, office buildings, shops, you know. Can't wait to see it when it comes all together. But we are getting close to the part that you guys have all been waiting for, the water tour, where your driver becomes captain. I would like to remind you guys to please stay seated because it will be bumpy. And you guys at the front here, lucky you, you are in the splash zone. So if you don't want to get splashed, I would recommend moving away from the side of the vessel, especially you guys in this row right here. Sorry about that. You guys up there, you should be fine, but you never know with Garrett, you know. But Captain Garrett's going to notify Halifax Traffic Control to let them know that we're going into the water, and they're going to let us know. What? You're going back? Okay, yeah, just wait till we get on the ramp. But yeah, so he's going to notify Halifax Traffic Control to let them know that we're going into the water. And they're going to let us know if there's any vessels that we should be mindful of. So while he does that, I do have to get off the mic because it does interfere. But before I get off the mic, do we want a big splash? Yeah, I think so. It's the best part of the whole tour. So it wasn't really a question either, you know, it was going to happen. But I thought I'd be nice and ask anyways. But, you know, you could say small, and me and Garrett would still agree on a big splash because it really just equals out in the end. So, but I am just going to get off the mic really quick here. All right, are we ready? Okay, let's go. All right, yeah. Does anyone want paper towel? Because that was a pretty big splash. Does anyone want, do you want paper towel? But welcome to the Halifax Harbour. This is the second deepest and ice-free port in the world, second to Sydney, Australia. And on your left there, that's the Halifax Naval Dockyard, the biggest naval dockyard in Canada, out of two, but still sounds a lot better if I say it's the biggest. On your right there, that's Casino Nova Scotia. It costed them $100 million to build, opened on June 1st of 1995 by Caesars Palace of Las Vegas. And then in October of 2005, they went bankrupt, so Halifax bought them over, and now it's a great place to gamble. On your left there, that's Dartmouth. Is anyone here from Dartmouth? A few of you. So the best part of Dartmouth is the view of Halifax. Just kidding, you probably saw that coming. So there are two bridges that connect us to Dartmouth, McKay and McDonald. They settled in 1750 and became a part of HLM in 1996. They're known as the Dark Side because it took them a whole year after Halifax to get power. They're also known as the City of Lakes because they have a lot of lakes. Is that true? Yeah, lots of lakes, yeah. Lots. And we're known as the City of Trees. Why? Because we have a lot of trees. It's really in the name. On your right here, these two towers are on Purdy's Wharf, so they're called Purdy's Towers. They're also known as milk carton towers because they look like milk cartons. There are office buildings, but the cool thing about them is that Dalhousie University students invented a specific way to air condition these buildings. They use the harbor water via geothermal cooling. So they've been saving $100,000 every year on air conditioning thanks to these students and thanks to the harbor. We have 5 universities and 1 college here in Halifax. So we have Dalhousie University that did that, St. Mary's University, Mount St. Vincent University, University of King's College, Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, which is also a university. And then on your left over there in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia Community College, the building that says NSCC on it. So that campus costed them $55 million to build, and it's known for how eco-friendly it is because it has solar panels on the roofs. On your right here, this is Marriott Hotel, and those three murals in the back there, those are changed about every 3 weeks and are usually painted by NASCAD students. They actually stand there and paint them, and they did all three of those in about 4 days, so it's super impressive. Also, the designer of this hotel wanted to keep the Victorian style, since a lot of Halifax was originally in Victorian style, and I really like that they wanted to keep a piece of the older Halifax with the new modern Halifax. Also, this hotel is where I had my prom, and almost everyone in Halifax has their prom at this hotel. It's the main place that schools choose, just because it's really nice and spacious. There's the Tiki Tours, that's a party boat right there. But there has not been a ferry any time today that I've been able to see. So there is a yellow, white, and blue boat. We might see one later, but I think they're in Dartmouth right now. So they take you from Halifax to Dartmouth, and then Dartmouth back to Halifax. They cost $2.75 to get on. They can hold up to 395 passengers, and they're the longest running saltwater ferries in North America, since they've been running since 1752. Although those vessels, they're pretty new, and each of them are named after someone with historic relevance here in Halifax and Canada. I'm going to talk about that in just 1 second, but there is a Harbour Hopper coming, so I want us all to wave this way. I don't want us to wave at them, I want us to wave the opposite way. Okay, ready, start waving. Yeah, I don't know how Stevie felt about that, but, you know, I like to get the reaction out of them, I don't know. I actually think they're talking about the Halifax explosion right now, so maybe that wasn't the best time, but that's okay. The newest addition for the ferry is from 2016, Viola Desmond. She was an African-Canadian businesswoman who faced racial segregation in the Roseland Movie Theatre in New Glasgow in 1946. She was asked to leave the whites-only section and denied, so she was then charged with tax evasion because she didn't pay the extra cent. In 2010, the Canadian government gave her a posthumous pardon. She's the first person in Canada to ever get a posthumous pardon, so that's awesome. And they also apologized to her and said that she was rightfully standing up for herself. This started a lot of civil rights movements here in Canada. She's a huge deal, and she's been on our $10 bill since 2018. Rosa Parks, yeah. On your right there, so that's Cable Wharf. So that's the oldest part of the waterfront, and they call it Cable Wharf because it's where they used to store cables. But it also has Cow's ice cream in it as well. So if you guys haven't tried Cow's, you definitely got to give it a try. They started off in PEI and have gotten bigger around Nova Scotia and some parts of Canada. They're famous for their chocolate-covered potato chips. If you guys haven't tried them, don't knock it till you try it. They're actually delicious. And they also have great ice cream flavors as well. And on your right here, this is Queen's Park, the newest part of the waterfront. There's also stairs that go down into the water. Those are used to measure the tide. And on the right to the stairs there, you'll see that silver tower with all the mirrors on it. That's actually used to represent a lighthouse. That's representing a lighthouse. So when this... I cannot speak today. When the tide goes out, it signals the lights to turn on. It's super cool if you guys want to go check it out. And then this board on your right here, that says Acadia on it. That's the CSS Acadia. It's part of the museum. It was built in 1913, and it also was in the Halifax Harbour during the Halifax explosion. So it survived the Halifax explosion. And then this boat here that says K1A on it, that is also another part of the museum. That's the HMCS Sackville. So that's the last standing Flower-class Corvette in North America. It's also where the cars get the name Corvette from, since they're so fast and maneuverable in the water. If you guys want to go see any of those boats, you can just give a donation and they'll let you look around. And then behind the boats there, you'll see that building with all the flags. That's the museum, the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. So that's the first maritime museum in North America. Opened in 1948 and has been at that location since 1982. They have the world's largest collection of genuine wooden Titanic artifacts. They have a Titanic deck chair, Titanic utensils, a 3D Titanic video production, all the Titanic stuff. They recall the Halifax explosion. They have a Theodore Tugger exhibit, which was a 1980s kids cartoon, and so much more. So definitely go check it out. I definitely recommend it. Coming up on your left there, that's George's Island, which is a glacial formation also known as a Citadel Hill Part 2. That one building on it there, that's Fort Charlotte, named after Queen Charlotte. And if any of you guys watch Bridgerton, it's the same person that the character Queen Charlotte is based off of. There's also something known as the Eyes of Fort Charlotte. So there's holes near sea level that used to poke cannons out of them, and were great for the 200 years of straight military action that was going on there. Also, you'll see there's another signal mast from George's Island. So since George's Island and Citadel Hill are both military forts, they will communicate back and forth to each other. Also, the island is open to the public from May to October. They have underground tunnels, and I've heard it's extremely haunted. I don't know if this will draw you to it or draw you away from it, but this island itself has the most snakes out of any other place in Canada. So if you like snakes, definitely check it out. If you don't like snakes, check it out, just for fun. The Ambassador says a George's Island tour if any of you guys want to go check that out. Also, I think this is a perfect time to sing, what was your name again? Travis, happy birthday. So we're going to sing it, Travis, happy birthday. And 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Travis. Happy birthday to you. Happy early birthday, yeah? Happy early birthday. Coming up on your right here, this glass building, that's the Discovery Center. So that's a hands-on science center to make science fun. They have interactive exhibits like a bubble room, a piano staircase, an innovation lab, and so much more. And you really don't have to like science like the Discovery Center. There's a reason I'm taking a Bachelor of Arts and not a Bachelor of Science. I'm not good at it. It's not my strong suit. But I do like the Discovery Center. I do find it fun. So it's great for kids as well because there's lots of activities. So I recommend checking that out as well. Is anyone here from the cruise today? No? Well, here is the Norwegian Joy. Here. I really like it. It has some art on the front of it. Also 2 water slides, which I love to look at. But it's parked at the pier. So there's Pier 20, Pier 21, Pier 22, and Pier 23. Pier 21 is Canada's Immigration Museum. I definitely recommend checking that out. And also Pier 21 has a market as well. And it's also, of course, where all the cruise ships come in. But I am just going to take a quick break off the mic here. I'm going to come up and down if you guys have any questions or want me to take your photo. And when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the Halifax explosion.
Okay lang.